Stick around. I'm going to tell you why Alabama football needs to only land one more guy to have potentially one of their best classes ever. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Way Offsides, your favorite Alabama show here on YouTube. I'm still feeling a little under the weather, so if there's some coughs or sneezes in this video, I apologize in advance. Hey, dude, what are you doing with your life if you're not subscribed to Way Offsides? Well, you're making a mistake. Go over, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. It only takes a second. It'll be the best decision you've ever made. You can also follow us on social medias at Way Offsides with 4 A's. 3's not enough, 5's too many, always 4, just like in the word Alabama. Thanks for joining today. You guys are probably here for some recruiting talk just because there hasn't been much going on. And folks are kind of fiending. Alabama went on an absolute tear earlier in the month. It's still July. It feels like this was a few months ago, but it was just a couple of weeks ago. Alabama went on an absolute tear on the recruiting trail, and things have kind of been quiet since then, outside of a commitment this week from four-star Hawaii-based, or Utah-based, really, quarterback Taden Kawa. Things have been kind of quiet, and folks are fiending for that next one. It's like crack. You need that next hit. Well, the next one I think is coming soon. A lot of folks are kind of waiting on this one because it's a potential big one, and that is obviously we're talking about 5-star edge. Anthony Tank Jones down there out of St. Paul. But I want to look at the class as a whole and discuss why I think he is the last guy that Alabama really needs to land. Assuming they can hold this whole class together, he is the last guy that Alabama really needs to land for this class to almost be historic. And so we're going to take a look at the Whoop board really quick. This is our Way Offsides official prediction board. You can see they were doing pretty good. We missed out on KJ Ford, but so did everybody else. KJ basically used Alabama as leverage to get a bigger bag out of Florida. Now, a lot of people, a lot of you feel like this is somebody you should still watch. I talked to somebody I trust very closely, that person being, I don't know if he wants me to say his name, but I'm going to. Sorry, Clint. Clint Lamb felt strongly that KJ Ford approached Alabama. He wanted to be at Alabama. It wasn't the other way around. And so if there's still a deal to be done there, something to just keep an eye on. I'm not saying it's going to happen. He's currently verbally committed to Florida, who is on a little bit of a heater themselves. And so we'll see how that plays out. I will say that if Ford were to flip his commitment to Alabama, there's a lot more competition with the Tides class and in their room than he would be facing down there in Gainesville. So, outside of that, Alabama's been pretty much killing it. You've got several 5-stars: Jordan Edmonds, Xavier Crowell, Sadarian Morgan, Xavier Griffin. And yes, Xavier Crowell is still a 5-star. I don't care what Rival says with their new ridiculous system. And then Jaira Edwards. You follow that up with a ton of other guys, a couple of 3-stars that potentially will be 4-stars before it's said and done. And then also, you look at some guys that we didn't whoop that were already committed, like Zion Gibson, who's been committed since like Christmas Eve, I think. Alabama's sitting in a really, really good spot, especially defensively. This is a really well-rounded class. They recruited really well on the offensive line last year. Now they're recruiting really well to their interior offensive line this cycle. Bama's class is really, really good. Now the problem is that Alabama is still sitting at number 6 right now. Texas got a couple of big names verbally committed over the last couple of days, and kind of catapulted them into the top 5. So it knocks Bama down to 6. Bama is not going to finish with the number 1 class. I think that they still had a shot at it. They still do, assuming there's a surprise or two along the way. But the problem is, if you look right here in this total commits, is you've got some guys that are just absolutely stacking recruits. 31 to USC, 30 to Georgia. Now, when you look, obviously Alabama has more talent at the 5-star position. I don't necessarily agree with this Rivals ranking here. I think that before they kind of revamped everything, Bama's average was much higher. If you look right here, it's higher than just about it's higher than everybody in front of them. them in Oregon. Now the problem is why aren't these three schools ranked higher? Well, because they don't have as many commits. Oregon only has 15 right now in total. Alabama has 20. LSU was 16. Now, I think that this tells you that Alabama has done exactly what they wanted to do in this class. There's a couple things that you can kind of derive from this. The first being that Bama is being smart with their NIL. They knew that they had to win the state, I think. You had a bunch of big name targets, Anthony Tank Jones, who they haven't landed yet. We're hoping. It looks like it's trending that way. Or so we'll see if Bama can close that one out. But Sperry Morgan, Xavier Crowell, those are big things. Those are going to take a chunk of your Alabama needs guys or get 30, 32 guys. And this is what Courtney Morgan has been hinting at with his tweets when, relationships over, what did he say? Quality over quantity. Kirby Smart's kind of shared some of the same sentiments when he said relationships over transactions, but Georgia's sitting there with 30 plus recruits right now. Also, you have to think that some of these guys in these bolstered classes won't necessarily finish that way just because there's not going to be enough room. Typically, if you see somebody with that kind of class, with these kind of commits, USC maybe not, just because there's going to be a lot of room for competition. USC hasn't been that great. But Georgia, unfortunately, you're going to see a lot of those kids probably wind up in the portal at some point in time just because Georgia already has a very, very solid roster. It's going to be hard for a lot of these kids to come in and get playing time. And that is very important in today's age. A lot of these kids coming out of high school feel as if they're ready to play at the D1 level. And so early playing time is very, very important to them. And when you're joining a class that has 30 total commits, that may not be in the cards for you. And so that's if it finishes that way. If you're of the Auburn camp, you feel like after August 1st that a lot of these commits are going to realize they're being lied to and this and that. That's stupid. In terms of Alabama, at least, and I'll speak solely to Alabama on this. If you think Alabama's lying about NIL money to their recruits when they're only sitting with 20 recruits in their class, and they're still at number 6, then you're an idiot. You're not paying attention to what's actually going on. Now, you could maybe potentially make that argument up the ladder, just based off the total commits. But I still, I have a hard time swallowing an AD and a head coach signing off on lying to a player about NIL just to get the commitment and then having to tell them later, we can't pay you as much. It's just not a great look. I struggle with that thought. Maybe I'm naive, who knows? But in terms of what Alabama's doing right now, I think Alabama's in a good place. They're likely not going to finish with the number 1 class unless they have a couple surprises. One of those surprises could be Alabama trying to get 5-star wide receiver Tristan Keys on campus in the fall. If they're able to do something like that and get a flip there. Maybe get Kenny Darby back. But you have to also think that some of these kids that Alabama has committed are going to go on fall visits, and they may potentially flip. We saw that happen last year with Caleb Cunningham. I think that in terms of who Alabama has, the big names that we have in this class, Xavier Griffin, Sadarian Morgan, I don't think you necessarily have to worry about those. Out of the 5 stars, the one I would worry about the most would be Sadarian Morgan, because I've heard that those communication channels with Florida are still open. But he's an Alabama guy. I don't foresee that happening. Not saying it couldn't, but I think if Bama were to lose anybody out of this class, it'd be somebody lower on that recruiting board. Maybe not one of the big names, but I feel like Alabama has to land to consider this a success, an ultimate success in terms of recruiting class. They have to land 5-star edge Anthony Tank Jones out of Mobile. I feel like it's a must. That is, they would sweep the state if they did this. Auburn doesn't seem to be in play anymore. It seems to be between Oregon, Texas A&M, Alabama. Last season, the best player in the state of Alabama didn't stay in Alabama, Naeem Offord. There's some recruiting agencies that have Tank Jones as the best player in the state of Alabama. I don't think he is. I think it's Sadarian Morgan. But this is a guy you really want to keep home. And by home, I mean Tuscaloosa. And so I think if Bama does that, this is potentially one of their best classes of all time. I mean, you're going to have 6 5-star guys You're going to finish with 6, which is really hard to do in today's age of college football. But what it ultimately tells me is that the program is still trajecting in the right direction under the tutelage of Kalen DeBoer, this recruiting staff. He's got some crazy good recruiters on this staff, and obviously general manager Courtney Morgan. So tell me what you think below. How important is Anthony Jones? And are there any surprises that you see coming up down the road? Any guys that you think Bama still needs to be going after? Now, that's not to say that Anthony Jones will be the last commit to Alabama. I think that they'll still kind of fill it out a little bit with some guys. But I think in terms of really big names that everybody's waiting on and watching, if Jones commits to Alabama, that'll be the last one. But I want to hear from you what you think. So please don't be shy and leave a comment below. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Even though I'm under the weather, y'all are the best. We absolutely love each and every one of you. We adore you because you're awesome. Say your prayers, get in your Bibles, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.